Support for This News is So Gay comes from the LGBTQ Opportunity Fund of the Cleveland Foundation, leveraging philanthropy to empower LGBTQ communities. Welcome to This News is So Gay. I'm your host, Ken Schneck, editor of The Buckeye Flame, Ohio's LGBTQ newsroom. Thanks so much for joining us. Highlighting here at the top of the show for the last time, even though last week I said it was the last time, but this time I really mean it. It is the Buckeye Flame's 6th birthday, and we are celebrating all month. It is the last day of our birthday campaign, and we're at like 86% of our goals, so we need your support to keep the flame burning bright. So become a recurring donor to our scrappy queer nonprofit newsroom, and it will support our journalism, which includes This News is So Gay. Just head on over to thebuckeyeflame.com and click donate. And speaking of This News is So Gay, here's what we've got coming up on this week's episode. Federal and state governmental policies are affecting LGBTQ people all over this country. What are some of those recent examples? There are a host of LGBTQ people you may not know, but soon will in our latest round of Who the Heck Is That? And of course, queer joy. Where is our roundtable finding queer joy in the news right now? Joining us this week to answer those questions and so many more, managing editor and training director for Investigative Reporters and Editors, a grassroots nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the quality of investigative reporting, Adam Eagle Rhodes. Adam, welcome back to the podcast.
Oh my God, Adam Eagle Rhodes. That's so funny. Hi, Ken.
I'm sticking with it. Also joining Adam, award-winning, that's right, award-winning journalist and reporter for the Ohio Capital Journal right here in the Buckeye State, Susan Tebben. Susan, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
And California politics editor for the Sacramento Bee and the official sports ball correspondent for This News is So Gay, can talk to us about, I assume, all things World Cup, Lauren Chapman. Hi, Lauren.
Hey, I don't believe soccer's a real sport if it's played by a European team. South and Central America, you get a free pass for a sport that ends in a tie.
This ends our World Cup edition of This News is So Gay. Our LGBTQ Reporters Roundtable is now assembled, so let's dive in. So this is it. I really mean it this time. Pride Month officially is at an end, but only kinda, because as we were talking about in the pre-show for our bonus content, we still have so many events in July and 2 huge prides in August. Akron and Toledo here in Ohio. And by the way, I have to tell you all this story, and I haven't even told producer Gray this story. I was at a pride this past weekend in Mansfield, Ohio, and someone came up to our table and said, I have to tell you, I work in the most homophobic environment. It's a totally homophobic office, and my only refuge for the week is putting in my earbuds and listening to This News is So Gay. And I was like, oh my God, we're doing things. So go team on that one.
Oh my God, that's so nice.
It was so nice because, and of course, I had just said to Anna, our development director, should we really be going to all these prides? And as if this person heard, she came up and said, I'm like, crap, we got to go to these. So,
Oh, crap, we're helping people. It's so crazy.
I know, it's so annoying.
Beans, we have to keep showing up and doing the thing for the community.
Damn it, we have impact.
Hell.
Let's see how this group of LGBTQ reporters have held up during Pride Month. Adam, have we survived Pride Month?
Barely. We're haggard. We're here. We're making it through.
I think that's the new tagline of This News is So Gay. We're haggard and we're here.
Some of us are just hags.
And that's Susan answering the question, did you make it? Susan, have you endured Pride Month?
I have not endured. We've all thrived. Actually, I had a funny, similar experience that just today I finished up a story. Well, finished it up a few days ago on the Dobbs decision, the 4th anniversary of the Dobbs decision. And my boss said, you know what, you did really good stuff. And that was very powerful what you did. So you should save that for next award season. And I was like, that is exactly what I need to hear right now. And it's still June. So there we go.
Lauren, how fares you?
Moving to California means that Pride Month is really tailored to me because California's primaries, other than than presidential election years, are in June. So this is my World Series. This is the happiest time of year for me, where I am here. I am queer as hell, and I'm a big old politics nerd. So this has been incredible. Also, I got to go to San Francisco Pride for the first time ever. Literally this last weekend. We are dehydrated, we are a tiny bit sunburned, and we are full of joy.
I love it. I'm going to put you on the spot. I couldn't fit this into the show, but I have to ask this really quick before we get into all the different stories we have prepared for. I was reading with interest this whole thing about California becoming two states. Is there any
Girl,
chance that that's a gay story?
girl, girl! Okay, yes, it is a gay story. It is everything is a gay story if you try hard enough, and
Okay.
there have been at least 4 dozen attempts to split California into multiple states, dating back to before it became officially a state. And this is the most recent version. My favorite is the 5 Californias, but that was because it was popular around the time that I was an intern here, and that stayed with me. It changed my brain chemistry. This version splits it into 2, which basically carves out every single major city in California and puts it into its own state, and then splits off something called the Inland Empire. Now, how is this a gay story? It's a gay story because you're carving up the predominantly rural and most conservative. I use conservative in air quotes because,
Conservatively?
yeah, I mean, California Republicans are Indiana Democrats. Let's be so real. And so, yeah, no, it's absolutely a gay story because then you're cutting off the same kind of protections and regulations that keep queer people safe in California. You're basically carving away some of those protections in order to split the state into 2. There are a lot of really valid reasons why conservative areas and especially rural areas of California feel like they're not being represented in Sacramento, in the state government, and in the state legislature. I don't know that that is the best solution. And there's literally no support, no like real honest backing behind it, mostly because it's a supermajority of Democrats and they're never going to let that happen. But it's absolutely a queer story because it becomes a question mark for a lot of the protections that a lot of people here in California, a lot of queer people here in California take for granted.
I want you to know I'm in a cold sweat now because I had to cover redistricting for like 4 years, and now that just all sounded exactly like that, and now I'm stressed.
Oh yeah.
I worked my entire career to never cover politics. I need everyone to know that. Like, not elections. I'm not going to be the person on election night. Like, if I have pizza in a
Oh,
newsroom, it's because someone's leaving.
Keep bragging.
Oh, I don't know how, but it's like I attract it to me. It's like you can smell it on me. It smells like paper and tobacco and bad decisions and panic sweat. But that is my vibe.
Sounds like a Saturday night.
Oh yeah.
Transition back to Pride.
Yeah, it's right back. We never even left it. Let's talk more about the government with the very real role that the government can play on LGBTQ plus individuals' lives. And obviously, we know that policies can affect the queer lived experience, and it really does hit every facet of our lives. Adam, let's start with you and let's talk about housing. What is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development up to these days as it affects LGBTQ plus individuals?
Not great things, unfortunately. I recently reported for Prism, kind of in late April, that the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development basically unveiled a proposed rule, now final rule, that basically rolls back a lot of housing policies that expanded, the ability for queer people to access safe federal funded housing. The rule removes references to gender or gender identity within certain protections in and urban development rules. It replaces them with sex. It allows facilities under HUD programs so that are federally funded to require, it's the phrase, require reasonable assertions and evidence, basically to prove somebody's sex versus their gender identity. So, obviously just like very invasive. I don't know if like searches will be part of it, just very invasive, like questioning confirmation of like somebody's identity versus their sex. And, I think we all know that even just like the term biological sex is like really politicized and everything these days. So we kind of don't even know what that means. The HUD Secretary, Scott Turner, said in a statement that the proposed rule is going to bring back biological truth and sanity to HUD policies, and then specifically said, God created two sexes, male and female, which I think really gets to the heart of what's going on here, that it is, part of the general Christian nationalist movement that Donald Trump is leading. And, again, as we all know, comes after years of the Trump administration and Republicans, doing everything that they can to dismantle what limited protections queer and trans people have in public life. This is obviously related to efforts to roll back worker protections, roll back healthcare protections, roll back housing protections. These are like the most basic things that people need to survive. And the fact that the Trump administration is rolling back protections to access those things, I think, is really telling.
Let's talk about health a little bit. Susan, there's the part where policy can very much impact LGBTQ plus health outcomes. You wrote all about this, and the Buckeye Flame so proudly republished your work. And it is the first time in the 6-year history of the Buckeye Flame that I got to list the keyword associated with an article as glut, because you put the word glut in the headline. Tell us about what you found.
And with vigor, too.
Yes.
So, yes, as everyone I'm sure is already aware, the stuff that happens in the State House and Congress actually does directly impact everybody else in the country. Breaking news for anyone.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about healthcare, obviously everybody and their mother is talking about healthcare right now. When you're talking about LGBTQ plus healthcare, we have disproportionate lacks of barriers to care. We have, a lot of the population, and in Ohio, we have this particularly too, population that is, avoiding care because they expect discrimination, and they avoid care because they don't have insurance. And because they're avoiding care, then things get worse. And then they have to either go to the emergency room, which is very costly, or just not get that care altogether. And that could cause them to die. That could cause them to just have even more things going on, more money. So this looks like economically for them, more money, worse off, less access to being able to get a job, to go to school, all that stuff. And it also goes straight to the coffers of the state and the federal government, where they don't get money if we don't have workers and we don't have people having insurance. And then these health outcomes become a thing that impacts everybody, which again, I am sure is not a surprise to anyone here, that if LGBTQ people are getting sicker, then that stands to reason that everyone else in the state will get sicker, and the numbers for the state will look worse because we have a group that is not getting the care that they need. And then the other part about this is being able to quantify this to convince policymakers that this is an actual issue is getting harder, because on the federal side of things, we're seeing demographic data that is being either not put in or eliminated or erased. The Williams Institute at UCLA said that measures about gender identity and sexual orientation are being removed from federal data collections, which is largely because of executive orders and policies from the Trump administration that basically is saying transgender, non-binary, and intersex identities are not being recognized by the federal government, which means they're not being included in demographic collections. And that also means when you're talking about reporting like bias motivation questions and implicit discrimination, you're not getting that data to show you that this stuff is actually happening and it's impacting this particular group. So all the way around, you're seeing negative impacts, and it comes all the way back around to impacting everybody else that lives in this country and is trying to get health care. So long story short, yeah, it impacts.
Yeah, there is that connection there. Lauren, it's almost like we have to remember that the government can also make positive changes. We turn to California. What's going on in California with all gender restrooms?
Yeah. So while Indiana was considering a historic number of anti LGBTQ legislation, California was pushing back against the tide that was rolling across the country. The California legislature in 2023 passed a law to mandate that all California schools must have at least one all gender bathroom available to the student population. That law takes effect July 1st, today, for those of you who are listening, the day the episode drops. In the Sacramento area, almost all school districts report they've met that requirement. The Sacramento City Unified School District, SCUSD, says they'll be in compliance by the beginning of the fall semester. And there are only 2 schools in the district that don't already meet that requirement. Other nearby school districts have already reported that they have accessible all-gender restrooms for students. And so this is really a kind of perfect example of we all live in the same country, but we have wildly different experiences based off of what your state government is doing. And this is where I get on my little bit of an apple box for a second. This is why it's so important to be involved in representative government at the local level and at the state level, because this is the kind of difference that it makes on whether or not a student who identifies in any like spectrum of gender has a safe place to pee during the school day. And yeah, it takes effect July 1st.
I was reading about it and I was thinking, yeah, this is not an Ohio story. I often read about other state stories and think, nope, that's not happening here. So a lot more work to do. Well, one of the absolute joys about hosting this show is that I get to spend my Sunday mornings, and I really mean this. This is what I do on Sunday mornings is I read through my colleagues' work in order to prepare for the week's episode. And because I adore you three in particular, as listeners will note, we actually drop down to 2 panelists per episode, except for these 3. I cannot separate them. I wanted to go back into the archives and see what I could dig up from your past work. So we're going to play 3 rounds of my favorite game, Who the Heck Is That?, where we meet LGBTQ plus individuals you might not know but should. And we're going to use stories from your past. Adam, we'll start with you. Round 1. Who is Angelina Nordstrom? And I looked it up. She's still in the same role.
Yeah, absolutely. So Angelina Nordstrom is a really fantastic Chicago-based lyricist, poet, and advocate for LGBTQ plus workers. She is the current Chicago liaison for the National LGBTQ plus Workers Center, which is a national organization that works to uplift LGBTQ plus workers, provide resources to fight and prevent discrimination, stuff like that. I think, especially in the world we live in, we all understand why this is really, really important. And, she's just doing really incredible work on behalf of LGBTQ plus workers, especially as somebody who has faced workplace discrimination specifically for being queer. I, know what it's like to feel helpless and, kind of trapped at a place that does not treat you respectfully for, just the most basic aspects of your identity. So I think Angelina is doing really, really, really incredible work.
There you go. That's round 1. Round 2. Now, this one's a little unfair, Susan, because I actually know this person personally, but I loved reading about them in your reporting. Round 2, Susan, who is Jody Davis?
I was going to say, how long were you looking at this stuff? Because this is a 6-year-old story that you dug into the archives for.
I went back into
You
your
did.
archives, friends.
Mine is from 2019. This is
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mine's from 2018.
Okay.
That's how I spend my Sunday mornings.
Well, I double checked on Jody Davis to see, and I did see that some outlet named the Buckeye Flame had done something on her. Jody Davis is a trans woman who, when I first came across her, was talking about this bill that has been years and years and years, and General Assembly after General Assembly has been a part of the legislature and not being taken through the system. It's called the Ohio Fairness Act, to bring sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression as part of the civil rights law in the state to prohibit discrimination. So she was speaking about that and for it, obviously. She grew up in Cincinnati. She, from a young age knew something was different, quote unquote different about her. She grew up Catholic, so whatever, all the stuff that comes up with that. And then she went into the Army to try to, and I quote again, man up and cure myself of this crazy gender stuff, which she ended up going through her life. She was in a marriage that ended. She went to conversion therapy that she didn't know was conversion therapy at the time. All this to then realize, I'm a transgender individual. I'm a woman. I'm going to go with my truth. Got her master's degree at Ohio State University and is now working in the medical field. So it ties right in with my LGBTQ health to have people that are representative of what you're looking for in the health field is very helpful for people to be able to see that. So now she works doing that stuff, and she was speaking out, making sure that civil rights law knows it should have gender as a part of it. Still hasn't passed, but she was trying.
It will be very interesting to see what happens next year because there's been one particular elected official who's been championing it for the 11 times it's been introduced. Isn't it like it was 11 times at this point?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, over 2 decades, and it seems like less Republican support than it's ever had, so it's trending in the wrong direction, and, Senator Nikki Antonio is actually termed out, so she will not be returning to the legislature, and so it'll be interesting to see if anybody picks up the mantle to keep trying to roll that boulder. I mean, they're not even rolling it halfway up the hill at this point. They're just, like, at this point saying, "Hey, look, there's a boulder." That's about as far as they're rolling that one.
Which was my movie in Shrek when he's like, "That's a nice boulder." Do you remember that? That's what I think.
Yeah, that's the Fairness Act here in Ohio. It's a very nice bill. It just doesn't seem to be going anywhere. All right, that's round 2. Last round, round 3. Lauren, who is Shelley Fitzgerald?
All right. So our story begins in 2018.
I love that. All right, like, let's get ready.
Shelley Fitzgerald was a guidance counselor at Roncalli High School, a Catholic school in Indianapolis. Shout out to our queer Catholics. Um,
Yes.
a few parents found out in 2018 about her marriage to her longtime partner. They'd been together for 25 years and then finally got married in 2014 when marriage equality became the law of the land. And so a few parents found out about her marriage and turned that information over to the archdiocese and to school leadership. She posted in a private Facebook group that the Archdiocese of Indianapolis had provided her 4 options: resign, dissolve her marriage, quietly finish out her contract, or be fired. Once the story became public, Shelley was placed on administrative leave and banned from the campus until her contract expired in spring of 2019. Students started protesting her ousting immediately, and this would have been the fall semester of 2018. Students took to the streets. They were protesting right outside of the entrance of Roncalli High School. They were protesting at the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, and they created a whole group called Shelley's Voice because at the very beginning of things, she didn't want to rock the boat too much, so she was trying to keep quiet in order to keep her paycheck. After her contract expired, the Archdiocese did not renew her contract, and she eventually filed a federal lawsuit later in 2019. After that, the ACLU of Indiana took on her case, saying religious exemptions for discrimination did not apply to her termination, and in fact, it was a wrongful termination. And in 2023, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals agreed. And the Seventh Circuit is not what we would call a particularly liberal Court of Appeals,
Nope.
but they said that Shelley was wrongfully terminated. She became a huge advocate at the State House, showing up in 2023 for that wave of anti-LGBTQ legislation. She still does show up at the State House and has become a real advocate for folks. And fast forward to today, she is now working for Indiana Youth Group, which is Indiana's, I believe, longest running LGBTQ organization in the country. I believe she does HR sort of backgroundy sort of things, but she's taken on the mantle and she's still doing it.
I love that. One of the reasons that I wanted to go back into the archives, I don't know about the rest of you. I find myself sad sometimes that we are a very one and done publication just because of our capacity. We just don't always have the opportunity to return to some of these folks and see how they're doing or even return to these stories. And I always feel bad because people will write us and say, "Hey, do you want to do another story on me?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. We already did one and we're trying to cover the whole state." So it was lovely to hear those updates because you all are listening to This News is So Gay. I'm your host, Ken Schneck from the Buckeye Flame, Ohio's LGBTQ plus newsroom. Joining me this week, Adam Rhodes from IRE, Susan Tebben from the Ohio Capital Journal, and Lauren Chapman from the Sacramento Bee. By the by, if you are not subscribed to This News is So Gay, what on earth are you waiting for? Subscribe to This News is So Gay right this very second on your favorite podcasting app so that new episodes automatically make their way to you. Well, it is time, folks. It is time for Glitter Bomb. where our very chaotic roundtable shares stories of queer joy that they are seeing covered out there in the news. So let's set off a glitter bomb. Susan, I'm starting with you. Give us a story of queer joy that you are seeing out there that you want to amplify.
You know what? And it's not a specific news story per se, except that Heartstopper, the movie Heartstopper Forever, which is what Heartstopper is to me anyway, is coming out in July. My wife and I were talking about this. It just sort of emphasized that LGBTQ literature and media has come such a long way. And like when you're going to your, I hope everyone goes to their indie bookstore days and their library book fests and all that stuff, you're just seeing the sections. We just went to a comic book store the other day, and to see like a pride section and an LGBTQ section just everywhere, and everywhere I go, which I don't know what that says, but there is specifically sections for this, not even during just June. Like there is demand for this, so people are responding. And to have Heartstopper coming out, which is very much a young adult thing, and it's beautiful, and I watch it all the time. To have that out there is just, when I get sad, I don't delve into my archives. I think about all the young adults that have all this media that they can actually look at that obviously could still be improved. We still need diverse representation and stuff like that. But I feel like that is just so helpful to the world.
I love it. All right. Adam Eagle Rhodes, give us a story of queer joy. What do you got?
In the fact that you called me Adam Eagle Rhodes, as I'm going to tell you that I'm very happy that Minneapolis repealed its bathhouse ban, is so funny to me. But yeah, that is something I have been really, really excited about as somebody who covers like bathhouses, like sex spaces, stuff like that. I think it's really, really cool to see kind of the reverse of what we have historically seen in these spaces. If you don't know, a lot of like gay bathhouses or queer bathhouses closed during the AIDS epidemic and the AIDS crisis. And I think for a lot of queer people, they have been seen as almost like a relic of our like pre or post Stonewall, pre AIDS crisis, like kind of rose tinted glasses, that like heyday of queer life. And I think it's really cool that Minneapolis is repealing its ban. I think this is really good for public health. I think this is really good for just like giving queer people a space. I wrote about like the importance of bathhouses, I think last year. And, when bathhouses first came up, they were like quite literally a safe space for queer people to congregate. Like this was in an era where like soliciting somebody for queer sex could get you arrested, could get you beaten up, could get you killed. Strangely, these are all things that I'm sure a lot of us are still worried about. And that like meeting somebody at the bathhouse was almost a guarantee that like, you weren't going to get outed and lose your job or lose your family or lose your livelihood. Because, there's that in kind was like, well, how'd you see me at the bathhouse? Like you would have had to be there kind of deal. So it doesn't sound like I think for the average everyday person, it probably doesn't sound like bathhouses are important to queer people, but I think they really, really are. And again, in the year of our Lord 2026, to see bathhouse bans being repealed, I think makes me very happy.
I think the day they reopen, Bette Midler should be there. Lauren Chapman, give us a story of queer joy.
So, before I became the politics editor, I was the Sacramento Service journalism editor. So, I was the direct supervisor for our food and drink reporter at the Sacramento Bee. And as part of June, he put together a roundup of LGBTQ restaurants and businesses. And my favorite that he highlighted is one called Zelda's. The West Coast does not understand what a Chicago deep dish is. And in fact, the number of people who have said that it is a casserole has made me want to commit physical acts of violence.
Yeah.
That being said, there is, oh, it's fine. You can have the wrong opinion. um, Zelda's is a place in Midtown Sacramento. It was opened by a woman from Chicago who brought her recipe, and it is now owned by a queer couple who have made many, many jokes about why people keep coming back to Zelda's. My favorite was that my 24-year-old reporter came back to me and said, "Oh yeah, we were doing the video together." And I was asking, "Oh, why is the pizza so good?" And one of the owners was like, "Oh, it's because we put crack in it." Stone faced,
Oh,
just, and then eventually stops and goes, "Obviously, that's a joke." And it's a very healthy, like beautiful space to have in Midtown Sacramento, in just a place where it's a little bit of Midwest and a lot of bit of home. And that's my little queer space joy.
absolutely love that. Well, finally, July 4th might be a national holiday, but July 3rd is a gay holiday here in 2026 because Madonna is releasing her 15th album, Confessions 2, coming out on July 3rd. So, for this week's quick queer culture question, let's hear it. I want one Madonna song, singing optional. Susan Tebben, your choice Madonna song.
Now, see, this is what I did with my Sunday was watch Madonna videos for research.
That's what we're calling it.
Oh, yeah.
As much as I want to say Material Girl, because that's great and has a quintessential Sesame Street Cereal Girl cover of it, I think I have to say Like a Prayer because the video, for me, Madonna is about the videos, and I watched so
Oh, yeah.
many in college classes that we considered research. So it has to be Like a Prayer because that is just the video that crosses all videos. I don't even know.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. I think I actually said this on the air a few weeks ago on the podcast because I needed something new to do. I'm now a certified spin instructor. And so at the beginning of Pride Month, my first ride of Pride Month was a Cyndi Lauper versus Madonna ride. And I was talking to them during the ride about that Like a Prayer video. And the blankness on the faces of the 23-year-olds in front of me, it didn't go well for me. I didn't feel great about what they didn't know.
There should be a better screening process for your spin class, it sounds like.
Listen, there is not. Adam, give us a Madonna song.
I really, really like the Madonna song Cherish. I have just really fond memories of
Oh,
like when I
yes.
listened to it. I am very blessed at IRE to have really, really fantastic colleagues who have become very important people in my life. And I have spent New Year's with a lot of them sometimes. And I just remember in one of a very particularly good New Year's, we just had like a playlist going. And Madonna's Cherish was playing during one of our kind of like really lovely moments we all had. And so I always think very fondly of that.
Another amazing video. She's on the beach. It's mermaids. That's a great one. Lauren Chapman, give us a Madonna song.
So this might actually come as a surprise to folks. I'm a huge fan of the movie Dick Tracy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a throwback for everyone here. And the song What Can You Lose, which is a duet with Mandy Patinkin and Madonna. She wrote, I think she did a whole album, but she did at least 3 songs with Stephen Sondheim for that movie. And What Can You Lose is the one that just like, every time I hear it, it just hits. It makes you do the stinky face when something's like too good, you can't look nice at it. That's my pick.
It's like cuteness aggression, but like mad at how good it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to remind our listeners the correct answer was Where's the Party? I'm sorry, the correct
Ooh,
answer was
yes.
Where's the Party? But yours were all so good as well. We want to hear what you all are working on. Adam Rhodes, what's coming up for you?
I just filed another really, really big project that is my usual brand of important but not so fun news. So stay tuned for that. It is coming out in Prism. My most recent project, I made my debut in Trans/Media, talking about how trans people would be affected. The Save America Act passes, so I'm really excited for that. But stay tuned for more doom and gloom from me.
Amazing. Susan Tebben, what glut do you have coming up for us?
I'm in Ohio, doom and gloom. We just do it. As I said earlier, I just finished a story about the 4th year of Dobbs since the Roe v. Wade was overturned. That's a really I'm not trying to humble brag here, but it was a really powerful story. It was the first time in a while that a source has made me cry. So
Hmm.
I hope people listen to that or read it. I'll read it too if you want me to. But and then I'm also I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's a general election coming up in Ohio in November. We have a governor's race. We have all these other. I'm covering particularly the Supreme Court race because the Supreme Court Justice Jennifer Brunner is the only Democratic elected official that we have in the higher ups of Ohio right now. So she is up for a term, and that will make the entire Ohio Supreme Court conservative if she loses. So I am working on the story about that and talking to her. I'd already talked to her and then to her opponent as well. So we'll see how that goes.
Election coming up. Lauren Chapman, what's happening in California for you?
I don't know, man. I'm on vacation this week. I literally just logged on in order to do this podcast. Um,
Yay!
the real answer is the California Superintendent of Public Instruction is an elected position that is losing most of its power. And one of the candidates for that position for the general election is a woman named Sonia Shaw, who has gained prominence for her full-throated disgust, I think is probably the best way to put it, at trans athletes existing. So we are putting together a story about some of the things that she's done in the school district that she's currently in, and also looking for other ways to keep people informed as we barrel toward the November election.
It is coming up fast. Well, I can think of no better way of transitioning out of Pride Month than with you three. We have to thank our roundtable. Adam Rhodes, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Susan Tebben, I'll see you in the State House.
Okay, see ya.
Lauren Chapman, always, always a pleasure.
You'll find me at a baseball stadium, I swear to you.
We will see you there. I'm Ken Schneck, editor of the Buckeye Flame. And if you liked this episode of This News is So Gay, please, please share it with a friend. Subscribe so that you do not miss out on our next episode. Send an email on over to editor@thebuckeyeflame.com. That's me, to let us know your thoughts and rate and review us on your favorite podcasting app. This News is So Gay is a product of the Buckeye Flame, a nonprofit newsroom. Become a recurring donor today for as little as $12.50 a month, which truly enables programming like this from a scrappy queer nonprofit newsroom like ours. In the meantime, read LGBTQ plus news, share the stories written by LGBTQ plus reporters, and support the work of LGBTQ plus newsrooms. Until next week, friends.